Something personal, this way comes. The Steelers have been busy this free agency frenzy season, adding Queen to their defense. And, of course, Russell Wilson, kind of a spicy addition we didn't see coming. Potentially their next starting quarterback. It's going to make Kenny Pickett fight for something. What do we think of the decision so far made by Pittsburgh, whether it be on defense or offense? Do you take us to defense first?
Oh, well, it starts with Russ, and you just said it, them getting him. He's going to be the starter. He's going to be the leader of that team. I think so.
100%.
I think he's going to be the starter. I think him and Kenny Pickett battling out. I think at the end of the day, Russ is going to be the guy that comes out on the other end. This guy won a Super Bowl. He's been extremely successful, and you said it when we were discussing it earlier in the week. This is a guy that threw for 26 touchdowns last year and only 8 interceptions. So you can say whatever you want to say. I think Russell Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's going to give them the best chance to be successful. The addition of Patrick Queen is huge because in the middle of that defense, you have Cole Holcomb on one side, you have Patrick Queen. And on the outside, you have Highsmith, you have Watt, you have Hayward and Ogunjobi in the middle. So you have defensively now a front seven that can compete with anybody. And I think what's kind of flown under the radar was the trade of Deontay Johnson. You get rid of Deontay, you bring in a Dante Jackson, the cornerback from the Carolina Panthers. So Patrick Peterson, a guy who's been released, who's going to be in studio with us tomorrow and Friday. They're replacing him with a guy, Dante Jackson, who's been a good starter for the Panthers throughout his career. So I think they've made the necessary moves to compete in that division, which is continuing to get better. But the biggest move, you're adding Russell Wilson, and Peter said it last segment, for a very low salary, and you get a chance to compete with a quarterback that has won games at this level.
Jason, let me ask you this. You bring in Russell Wilson not for the money. Do you think he has to be like, I'm the leader, I'm the locker room guy, or can't someone else in Pittsburgh take that on so then Russ doesn't have to be kind of like the spotlight on him leader guy?
I think to a certain extent he's walking into a team and an organization that has leadership. Cam Hayward has been there forever as a leader on that side of the ball. TJ Watt. But I think as a quarterback, when you're talking offense and you need to have a guy that's vocal and that in a huddle everybody looks to him and they're just like, they can look him in the eye and say, all right, we're good. Russ has us. Like, he's going to put us in position to be successful. So I do think to a certain extent, a veteran of his stature, you have to be a leader, and guys have to look at you that way.
I think the second the Ravens paid Roquan Smith, I think the writing was on the wall for Patrick Queen. That was cool that they both played together and they had this awesome deal as linebackers. But for him to choose Pittsburgh, he's beloved in Baltimore. They love him as a teammate, and the fans love him. But for Patrick Queen to choose the Steelers, this is spicy. And I know we saw that Tomlin clip of him, talking obviously with Queen, but I look at this defense and there are so many like big names. Cameron Hayward's a big name. TJ Watt's a big name. Minkah Fitzpatrick's a big name. Even Highsmith has become a big name. Patrick Queen's a big name, but like he also brings the leadership. He can wear the green dot on the helmet, linebacker, like I got this thing. And I was looking, so Shazier has that tragic career-ending injury in 2017, and you're coming off like looking at like who's been that linebacker since, and they've tried all these guys, like who's been that Steelers linebacker, and I feel like this might be the first one to actually, and I know they drafted Devin Bush, they tried a bunch of guys. Patrick Queen is a dog, he is a leader of a defense, and he's got this like kind of snarky personality a little bit where like this almost fits him a little bit. Like let me go up against Baltimore now and play the black hat role. I really like it for the Steelers. I'm still a little shocked he signed there. Now look, the money was right, so it all makes sense, but for him to be going up against the Ravens, for being such a beloved Raven, a first-round pick for the last 5 years, I can't wait for it.
And I want to see him now. All right, he had a year with Roquan Smith as his running mate. And Roquan, the way everybody talks about him, leadership-wise and just a dog mentality, I'm sure Patrick Queen has learned a ton from him. I want to see him now. He's walking into Pittsburgh, and now you've gotten a contract. You're walking in. You're the guy that everybody's looking to, that's looking for that motivational speech, that's looking for that kick in the butt when one's necessary. So he played really well next to Roquan. I want to see now how he goes, and he's the standalone guy, and he's now bringing somebody along with him. So I want to see that transition too, as long as staying in the division.
All-pro last year.
Yeah, all-pro.
All-pro. That means one of the top 4 linebackers in the sport. He was one of them. He and Roquan Smith. So big signing. I just can't believe I'm going to see him coming out there in a Steelers uniform.
Peter, that list of names you just rattled off, like the big name guys, the Watts, the Haywards, Queen, like That's also a really high IQ football defense. Just knowing those guys a little bit that I do, like I would put that group of big names, it's kind of that cost comparison of big names and really high football IQ. So I'm really excited about the Steelers defense as it stands in the middle of March. Kyle, do you go defense or offense when it comes to terms with what the Steelers have done over the last couple days?
Well, I go all of the above, and I think it's funny what Peter's talking about with Patrick Queen's snarky personality. We have an ongoing joke on this show with Patrick Queen, and where Patrick Queen's favorite Avenger is Hawkeye, and like nobody's favorite Avenger is Hawkeye. I don't think Jeremy Renner's favorite Avenger is Hawkeye, and yet he's like, Patrick Queen's like, look, I don't apologize for it. I like how he gets his business done. He doesn't have any powers. He doesn't have billions of dollars. He just gets the job done, and I think that's kind of cool, and I think that is an AFC North type mentality. But I just have a few things to say here about the Steelers, and I see these bold names at the bottom of the screen, and I like it because I think it's called for. You guys know I love the Steelers. I love what they stand for. I love how they handle their business. I love their standard of excellence. My 10-year-old son has decided that the Steelers are his favorite team. I don't know if he's been within 500 miles of Pittsburgh. He doesn't care. He likes that logo. He likes TJ Watt. He likes all they stand for. I think that this coming season is the most important Pittsburgh Steelers season in a decade. Because they are in a terrible drought right now. This is an awful time for Steelers football. I'm just going to be candid like that. They haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. 7 years. That is way beneath the standard there. And you can say all you want. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. As you guys know, I have found that quote now to become not only overused and beaten to a pulp, but really pathetic. We got to the playoffs last year and lost in the wild card round. That's Brown stuff. That's Bengals stuff. I don't care that you never had a losing season. I don't care that you've made it to the wild card and lose. That's not what the Steelers stand for. And by the way, never had a losing season for Mike Tomlin. I don't think it's true either, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, the postseason is their season. So he had a losing season last year. He went 0-1. All right, he went 0-1 in 2021. He went 0-1 in 2020. Those are all losing seasons for Mike Tomlin, and I say that out of admiration and respect for what he stands for and the standard. It's not good enough. This is a terrible drought. It is a famine for the Steelers right now. We're all saying, okay, TJ Watt, I think he's the best defensive player in the league. TJ Watt has never won a playoff game. Minkah Fitzpatrick has never won a playoff game. That's not Steelers. They haven't even been baptized yet in playoff wins. Never mind a Super Bowl or representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. They haven't even won a wild card game. And I don't even blame those guys. I blame this era. This is not what we signed up for as any sort of Steelers supporter, enthusiast, or someone who goes to the stadium to be a fan. This is not it. So if you're making a bold move and kind of breaking character and team building and getting Russell Wilson because you think he's cheap and maybe has upside, great. If you're going to poach from the Ravens, great. Because the Ravens have been winning playoff games. The Bengals have been winning playoff games. The Browns have won a playoff game against the Steelers since the Steelers last won a playoff game. It's not right. The NFL gods are pissed off about this. The Steelers fans should be pissed off about this. If this is as bold as they're going to get, I don't know if it's bold enough. They got to be bolder in the draft, and they got to fix this thing because Mike Tomlin loses in the playoffs. I don't care what he does in the regular season. I like Mike Tomlin. I think he's one of the best coaches. This will not do. The drought must end. Somebody do something because this is not Steeler football. Thank you.
I love that he said that because TJ Watt hasn't won a playoff game, and you kind of just start grouping people together when they've been there long enough. So Cam Hayward and all of those guys. And even with the moves they've made, all right, you've added Russell Wilson. We talked about Patrick Queen. You made a trade for Dante Jackson. I don't know that the Steelers have done enough where you're saying, all right, just within their division, he mentioned Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, but in the AFC in general, does Russell Wilson get you over the hump where now you're like, all right, if we get matched up with one of these teams and a wild card and divisional round, we feel really good about getting over that hump and winning a playoff game?
Again, I think the Russell Wilson signing, everyone's reaction was the same. That's a great bargain. Mm-hmm. That's a great deal. Denver's paying for him. At no point is anyone like, well, now let's go. Let's bring on Mahomes, bring on Josh Allen. And I think that's a chip on Russ's shoulder. He's going to look to rehabilitate his image, his career, obviously, in Pittsburgh. But I don't think anyone is doing a parade around Pittsburgh over the fact that they added Russell Wilson and now suddenly we're more equipped to face this. Did they get better this week? I think so.
What's interesting is I saw fans saying yesterday, all right, Kirk Cousins signs with the Atlanta Falcons, and it feels like in sports media, like everybody's throwing a parade of just this upgrade of Kirk Cousins in Atlanta.
Talk about it.
And it's like, well, Russell Wilson, who has won a Super Bowl and has had success.
Nine-time Pro Bowl.
Nine-time Pro Bowl and has had a ton of success. So, all right, he joins the Steelers, and we're just like, yeah, like to your point, like that's a good bargain deal.
And all of a sudden becomes a microeconomics teacher, and it's like, well, on salary cap, it works out. But
exactly.
Like, can Russ be Russ?
Can he be Russ? And we just watched Kirk Cousins before his injury last year was on a level where he was going to be considered for an MVP, and we haven't seen that from Russ since he's left Seattle. But if you're just going based off of what these guys have done in their careers, just like, well, Russ in Pittsburgh, they have George Pickens as a deep wide receiver draft.
The offensive coordinator is Arthur Smith. You played in a team coached by Arthur Smith.
Yes.
What does that mean, an Arthur Smith offense? Because in Atlanta, I don't know what to say. I mean,
and you look at in Atlanta, they were kind of putting the pieces around what you watch Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator for the Titans. He had Derrick Henry in the backfield. He had A.J. Brown on the outside and Corey Davis, two big receivers going over the middle, being able to make plays. They get to Atlanta, he gets Drake London, he gets Kyle Pitts. He was looking for that same thing. He never got the missing piece of the quarterback. I look at Russ, he's a guy that when he had his most success, he had running backs in the backfield. He has that in Pittsburgh. You get a receiver like George Pickens. If you can get one of these guys in the draft this year to put opposite him, now you may be able to get that play action and Russ throwing up shots and making plays that maybe Arthur Smith and Russ is the match that he needed once he left Seattle. But it's yet to be determined until we actually see it.
I do think how Tomlin is able to right the ship offensively will be key in terms of what happened in the second half last year because of the unprecedented decision he had to make in terms of moving on from play callers and then having that split room of one guy's running the meeting and the other guys running the offense. It was very interesting. It was very unlike the Steelers, and frankly, not being able to win in January is very unlike the Steelers, to Kyle's point. So we will see how times have changed or if they stay the same in Pittsburgh.